A few years ago, I was at a different worship service. It was really terrific. It was really interesting. God was in the room from the very beginning, right from the time that the worship group came up on stage. You could feel it. You could tell. The songs were terrific. Everybody had their hands up. Everybody was singing. Everybody was praising. And God was really at work in the room. And then about halfway up through the music, someone got up and went up to the front and knelt down at the front of the church to pray. And someone else got up and knelt down with them and prayed with them. And the music kept going, and then others began to go to the front and pray. They weren't asked to. It's just something that happened. Hands were raised, heads were bowed, people were worshiping, people were praying, and everything. Some people were crying. It was really, really cool to see. And then somebody went up to the front and began to speak, began to give a testimony, not prompted, and just off the cuff. They talked about their struggles, they talked about their life, and how everything was really going well now that they were with God. And then there was another one, and before you knew it, a testimony service of sorts had broken out. And we'd had about 3 or 4 of these testimonies, and it was cool. It was really amazing to see this happening spontaneously. And then something else happened. Somebody stood up, obviously angry, about some decision was made at the business meeting the week before. The church had one of their quarterly business meetings, I guess, and some decision was reached, and this guy didn't like the decision. So he got up and he started complaining about the decision. And the pastor stood at the front and said simply, "This is not the time to do this." And he was correct about it. He said, worship service is all about Jesus. It's not about anything else. It's not about decision. It's not about money. It's not about business. It's not about anything else in the church. It's about Jesus and worshiping and praise. The guy that was complaining, he sat down and then just grabbed his stuff and left the church. But as a result of this, as a result of what happened here, and this person standing up, the atmosphere of worship, it was destroyed. It was gone. The room just, it was like a vacuum. The spirit of praise and adoration got replaced with a lot of tension and anger, and a lot of sullen stares. No more testimonies. The last song or two that followed that, the band was just going through the motions. You could tell that all the feeling was gone. All the life of them was gone. Nothing felt right after that. Through the actions of one person, in a span of just a few seconds, the enemy had won a huge battle. Satan does not want Jesus to be worshipped. He does not want you to see Jesus for who he is and offer him the praise and worship and time and love that he deserves. And he will do whatever it takes to kill the spirit of worship anytime he can, and anywhere in your life and in the church. Any church, could be this church or any other church. Satan wins when worship is disrupted or destroyed. And so anytime the enemy succeeds in slowing down, hindering, or stopping our worship, trouble's going to follow right on the heels of that. Made me think of the story we were talking about last week about Martha and Mary, about that scene there. Is Jesus is at their home teaching. Mary's sitting at the feet of Jesus, listening to his words. Martha's running around trying to be a good hostess, spending time working, making sure all the guests' needs are looked after. Then she comes to Jesus and complains about Mary not helping out. And Jesus tells Martha that what Mary's doing is more important than the socializing. It's more important than the looking after the guests' needs. She is spending time worshiping and learning from the Master. And you see there what's actually happening in the background. Through Martha, and Martha was is not a bad person, but through her, the evil one was trying to interfere with Jesus, putting into her mind that these things are more important. You cannot be a bad host. You cannot let your guests go hungry, go thirsty, or be unattended. And he was trying to disrupt the worship through Martha, trying to cause trouble. There's another example of something very similar to this in the book of John. Jesus is back at the house of Martha and Mary again. Martha's serving, Mary's worshiping again. It's almost it's like a repeating cycle. But in John 12, 1-3, we see 6 days before the Passover, Jesus came to Bethany where Lazarus lived, whom Jesus had raised from the dead. Here dinner was given in Jesus' honor. Martha served, while Lazarus was among those reclining at the table with him. Then Mary took about a pint of pure nard, an expensive perfume. She poured it on Jesus' feet and wiped his feet with her hair. And the house was filled with the fragrance of the perfume. I'm sure that what Mary did got everybody's attention. It really hit home. I'm sure everyone that witnessed this personal and intense act of worship considered it, but considering it through the filter of their own life experiences. The disciples have been traveling with Jesus for a couple of years, coming on to 3 years now, and they've been seeing countless miracles. Lazarus was there. He'd been raised from the dead. So I believe that in that moment, after that absolute pure act of love and praise, they were on the verge of a truly, truly epic worship gathering. The love and worship was building in the room, and then trouble came in. It disrupted the flow and the mood of the moment, and we see this in the next verses in John, in 4-6. One of his disciples, Judas Iscariot, who was later to betray him, objected. Why wasn't this perfume sold and the money given to the poor? It was worth a year's wages. He did not say this because he cared about the poor, but because he was a thief. As keeper of the money bag, he used to help himself to what was put into it. See, Judas spoke up, and the mood of the room suddenly changed. The flow of worship at that moment was disrupted by the words and the actions of one person. There was a person who claimed to be a follower of Jesus. He was really putting on a false front. He was trying to fool everybody, deceiving almost everybody except for, of course, Jesus. But he was fooling everybody else, possibly even fooling himself as to his intentions, as to his worth, as to the path that he was following. And unfortunately, every church gathering has got somebody like that somewhere. Someone who attends all the events, helps out, stands up, and sings and everything, but they're not really walking with God. They're just going through the motions, and they're not living with and in the love of God. Such people, I hope, will wake up and they'll come around and truly accept Jesus as their Savior and Master. I also hope that they will learn that joy in your life, as we mentioned before, comes from walking with God. It doesn't come from your circumstances or your possessions or things like that. But I shouldn't get off topic here. We'll go back to Judas for a second. Judas was one of the 12 disciples. Everybody that they came across, everybody that in the public knew he was a disciple. Everybody knew they traveled with Jesus. He heard the same stories that the other 11 disciples heard. He sat through the same lessons. He witnessed the same miracles. But he wasn't truly worshiping Jesus. It didn't affect his heart the way it should have, or it didn't affect his heart the way it affected the other disciples. He knew what the plan of salvation was. He knew who Jesus was. He must have. He was traveling with him and walking with God. Walking physically with God, not emotionally. But he still didn't truly believe. And it can easily be said for a lot of people in the world that we're in now. They may know the plan. may have been raised in church, possibly attended Sunday school. They've heard thousands of sermons, prayed many prayers. They know the plan of salvation. They know that Jesus was sacrificed to save us. But none of these things matter if they've never surrendered their life to Jesus, if they've never asked him into their heart. The whole thing about salvation and walking with God, it's not about knowledge, it's not about what you've read, it's not about what you know, what you understand. It's about your heart, and it's about a personal relationship. And it's not about who you are, where you've been, or what you've done. Again, it's a relationship. And it's about your heart, it's about your love for God. And this point is emphasized in the book of Matthew chapter 7. Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. Many will say to me on that day, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name, and in your name drive out demons, and in your name perform many miracles? Then I will tell them plainly, I never knew you. Away from me, you evildoers. Now that last word is really strong. Evildoers. Troublemakers. People that, disruptors. Now I wonder about it sometimes. Why would someone do this? Why would anybody want to cause trouble in a church? Possibly the same reasons Judas did. They're involved in a church for the wrong reasons. They're in there thinking, what's in it for me? What can I get out of this? Out of the church experience? Or it might be someone in the church in the past has hurt me. Therefore, the church has hurt me. And that is that's an issue that I struggle with a lot. I hear a lot of comments about, well, what's different about your church? Because this church hurt me, that church hurt me, or whatever. And I stop and I look at them and I think, if you played a sport as a kid, say you played football, and one year you had a coach that just physically berated, browbeat, humiliated, and physically beat the players, would you say that football hurt me? Would you say that this organization hurt me? Or would you say that that guy hurt me? You would say that that guy hurt me, and I hope I never come across him or someone like him again. And yet people will have something bad happen to them in church, and suddenly the entire church has hurt them. Not that one person acting incorrectly within a church environment. And it's not great, it's not fair, but it is something that happens far too often. Now I digressed and I've lost my spot. Whatever the root cause is for people being this way, the bottom line is they're not really with us. They might be with us physically. Their heart is somewhere else, though. They're not in a personal relationship with God. And so because they're not in a personal relationship with God, they're not really living as members of this brotherhood of ours, of this family of ours. These people, they're not evil. They're not demented. They're not deranged. They're not terrible people. They're just living a life that's not based on worshiping God. And if worship of the Lord is absent in your life, there's room for something else to come in. And trouble in one way, one shape, one form. Trouble in your life, trouble in your relationships, trouble in general. And with all this trouble that you face alone in your life, you might get hurt. It's very easily for you to get hurt. And that opens up another issue, is that a whole new set of problems. It's because hurt people hurt people. They share their misery. If you've been hurt, you're in a bad mood and you tend to lash out and hurt somebody else. You're functioning from a base of pain, of despair, of anger, and you're really, really likely to cause pain and anger in someone else from your actions or from your words or from the attitude that they see in you. They might reflect that. And then that person is going to go on in their day and they're going to cause quite possibly pain and anger in somebody else. And then that person goes on, and it goes on and on. It's like ripples in a pond. It spreads out. So we have to do something to break that kind of cycle in our lives, the cycle of trouble and pain and anger. We have to live a life of worship, not a life of trouble and problems and issues. We have to strive each day to be a positive influence to everybody that we meet, not a negative influence. We have to remember something else that Jesus said in John 15:12. My command is this: love each other as I have loved you. You can't get any clearer than that. Love each other. Everybody, as I've loved you. Love them completely, without reservation, unconditionally. There's no room for misinterpretation. There's no stuttering. It's a nice short piece. There's no room to get lost in that. Love everybody. Because bottom line is, when you love somebody, you're not going to hurt them. You will strive to not cause trouble for them. You'll respect them. You'll support them. You'll help them when they are facing trouble from some other source. And hopefully you'll be a shining example of what it means to be a Christian, to be doing the Christian walk, to be living the Christian life. We've been blessed so far this year, and good to see some of them back, with 5 baptisms. 5 people through our group that are now walking with God and living in a personal relationship with Jesus. These 5 people are not living a trouble-free life. They're not living a carefree life. They still have struggles, still have challenges, still have some trouble in their lives. Some of the issues they're dealing with may be the same issues they were dealing with before they became believers. Unfortunately, becoming a believer does not, it wipes your slate clean of your sins, but it does not take away all your physical and emotional and mental issues instantly. They may still be fighting the same long battle they've been fighting for years, but there's a difference, and this is the important part. They're not facing these issues alone. Jesus is with them, teaching them, guiding them, strengthening them, and we're there too. We're praying for them, we're loving them, we're worshiping together with them, and we are walking with them just as God is walking with them. No one in this brotherhood of ours should ever feel they have to face anything alone. Everybody here is here to be together, to love God together, and to help one another. We're all in this together. We're all walking with Jesus together, and so you're never alone. That's one of the reasons why we gather here every Sunday. We don't gather here because it's the rules and it says we have to, and it's one of the things that you do to accomplish something. And we don't come here looking to get something out of it. We're not here with a what's in it for me mindset. We gather here to worship God together, to praise God together, and to learn from God together. We do get something out of it, but that comes in the sharing and the worshiping and the loving together as a group. We come here to renew each other, to help each other in our walk and our struggles and our faith each week. And so when we do that, when we spend time helping, supporting, and renewing each other, we get strengthened for another week out there in the world, a week of worldly trouble, but we're not facing it alone. We're facing it through our relationship with God and our relationship with each other. I look at each new week as a journey. I map out early in the week the things I have to do, the things I have to get done, the goals I have to reach to get through my work and business and other things through the week. Sometimes the journey is a real adventure, like last April when I ended up dropping my bike on my ankle. Yeah, everybody's laughing back there. That was a good one. All right. Every week is a trip into something new and different. And there's challenges, difficulties, there's sometimes conflicts. But I face each day hopeful, and I begin and end each day with prayer. I try to approach every day with love in my heart and hopefully a smile on my face. And it's not always easy, but I find that if I can keep the love in my heart, if I can keep the anger and darkness, which used to be such a big part of my past, away and in my past, the smile comes a lot easier. And then again on Sunday, I'm back here with you guys, I'm sharing with you, smiling with you, running the gauntlet of hugs once I'm inside. Well, actually, not even once I'm inside the door. In the parking lot before I reach the door. Okay. I mentioned earlier that hurt people tend to hurt people. Pain is contagious, but so is love. So is joy, so is humor. If you can keep smiling, smiles are also contagious. Right? And they're free. They don't cost you anything to give, and they bless people when they get them. So let your love and your joy lift up somebody around you, somebody you encounter every day, each new day. Let your worship inspire you, and let your love strengthen their worship, and let the worship drive out the trouble and not leave room for it to come in. Key is, don't let your worship end. And bless you all for coming and being part of our group. And thank you for your love and being here with us.